How's it going, Giants fans? My name is Alex with my co-host here, Anthony Rivardo, and today we're going to discuss Michael Strahan coming out and gushing over new management, right? He actually took a little slight at the previous management, Joe Judge, Dave Gettleman, and how they kind of incorporated the veterans. Now, I'm sure you guys remember Joe Judge bringing in a lot of those veterans. Anthony, why are you seductively massaging this triceratops? If you're listening, Anthony has a toy. What even is that dinosaur? What do you call that?
I forget the name of it, but whoever knows what the name of this dinosaur is down below in the comment section, let me know. Maybe Alex will send you a sticker for it.
I feel like Triceratops makes sense.
It's not a Triceratops. That one I know. I think it's a Bronchiosaurus. I'm not sure.
A Bronchiosaurus. Have you seen the new Apple TV prehistoric thing? It's freaking crazy.
I have not. Have you seen the new Jurassic World? It was not very good.
Oh, it wasn't unfortunate. That's unfortunate. It's just look, the classic Jurassic Parks are the best. If you haven't seen them, go watch them. They're so good. Probably much more enjoyable than watching the Giants the last couple of years. Looking at, old management, Joe Judge tried to bring in a lot of veterans. He tried to bring in Chris Sims, tried to bring in Strahan, some of these guys to come and talk to the team and tell them how they did stuff. And Strahan, kind of was like, new management wants to bring in these veterans to help just be around the team, help motivate them, just get them involved, give them a little bit of advice and insight, and let them do their thing. Give them the freedom, though. And the specific quote here is that they actually reached out to veteran players who have been there before, and not to come in and talk to young guys, say, this is what you do, and this is what you do. It kind of just being around to be an example. Strahan did say that the last coaching staff did not do that, and that it bothered him a little bit. So it was really interesting. I guess it was more about how they were using the veterans and incorporating them into the strategy of overall culture. Anthony, how are you doing today? And what are your thoughts on kind of the change in culture so far? Like just the feeling overall around this team?
Hey, man, I've been super excited for the New York Giants this offseason, and that's always a good sign, right? Because the Giants have not been the most exciting team over the past couple of years. There was some excitement when Joe Judge came in. He came in with that rah-rah mentality, saying he's going to kick everybody's ass for 60 minutes. It was all BS. He ended up really not having that rah-rah mentality at all. He was more of the mentality of taking a knee on 3rd and long, which was just the complete far cry from what he claimed to be. But nevertheless, we've got new management here. Michael Strahan's loving it. I'm loving it. And I'm seeing a major shift in the way that this team attacks roster building. And I think that's huge because the way that Joe Schoen has constructed this roster this offseason has been super exciting to me. The way that the coaches have talked, or the players have talked about the coaches, and the way that this offense is going to change is super exciting to me. I think this does tie in with yesterday's episode where we were talking about Kadarius Toney and Sterling Shepard's quotes about the Giants offense that's being constructed, how the new management of the coaching staff, Brian Daboll, Mike Kafka, how they're coming in, they're giving players a lot of leeway on offense. And I think things like that, that's super exciting. I do really enjoy the fact that there's more, veteran presences and there's more retired players who are getting involved, all of this stuff. I just think the Giants are a lot more exciting right now than they were at this time last year. And that, for me, makes me really happy.
Yeah, I mean, look, the entire vibe around the team, it kind of feels like we're back to being a family. I kind of felt distant from the team in the past. I feel like the disciplinary ways and look, we liked Joe Judge at the beginning. If you called out Joe Judge in the beginning for being a fraud, you were way ahead of the game. And most people kind of bought into it because it looked good on paper. Right. The thing is, like, when you're not behind the scenes, when you're not like on the field, if you're not a player or a coach, like when Mark Colombo got almost in a fist fight, apparently with Joe Judge, that should have been a major red flag. And instead we kind of were like, we hope Joe Judge kicked the crap out of him, which is kind of funny at the time. But now we're kind of like, we don't want our coaches fighting. We kind of just want this family mentality. These guys are all contributing to our positive learning environment. And, we learned a lot from the mistakes that Joe Judge made, like the laps, the consequences, the physical consequences that he kind of implemented on this team for making mistakes in practice. That energy, those laps should have just been doing the drill until he got it right, instead of burning and exhausting these players running laps. Like, just keep doing the drill until you get it right. That's how you learn. And like, now we've learned a lot about how to be a better coach. As fans. And, we kind of have a little bit different perspective on what a good coach looks like. Now, that doesn't mean Brian Daboll and Joe Schoen, all these guys are going to be successful, because we haven't seen that yet. There's a lot of work left to do. But Michael Strahan, if there's anyone to kind of buy into when people speak. Strahan definitely comes off as a guy I would believe and trust, and especially because he kind of has a closer relationship with these guys. And he did say, like he hopes that the Giants will let him be there as much as he can possibly be around. And talking about the defense specifically, said, I don't know if they're there yet. I think they have a lot of young players who they are depending on, which they probably will need a little bit more experience. So they're young. Obviously, James Bradbury went over to the Eagles, but he did have some really great things to say about Daniel Jones and Kayvon Thibodeaux. And he's been practicing, not really practicing, but really mentoring Kayvon Thibodeaux individually and specifically, which is really cool. So, what are your thoughts on him kind of helping Kayvon Thibodeaux along this process? A very charismatic player, a very media-born kind of character. And I think like he kind of needed the guidance to not turn into an OBJ, or like, not that OBJ did anything wrong, but like, just be kind of, himself, but not go overboard with it. Like, what is your thoughts on the kind of the mentorship thing going on there?
Well, is there anyone better to mentor a young edge rusher than Michael Strahan, one of the best pass rushers of all time, And Michael Strahan was a star, a superstar. He still is a superstar. He's like the face of television at this point in his life, which is so cool. He's like hosted all these game shows. He does Fox News, or Fox Sports, that is, pregame analysis. He has, he's been on talk shows as a co-host for multiple talk
Good
shows.
Morning America.
He is Good Morning America. Yeah, he was on Live with Kelly and Michael, like he's the guy. It's Michael freaking Strahan. He's honestly one of the greatest New York Giants ever, and not really even so much because of everything that he did with the Giants. Like, that's all a part of it, but everything he did after the Giants. He's just like one of the greatest human beings to ever walk inside the Giants stadium and wear a Giants uniform. Like, Michael Strahan is that dude, and I love him. And there's no one better for Kayvon Thibodeaux to learn from, not only from a football standpoint, because again, Michael Strahan is one of the greatest pass rushers ever. And there's a plethora of information in the pass rushing department that he can teach Kayvon Thibodeaux. But how about just being a superstar? Kayvon Thibodeaux needs to learn. He's been a superstar ever since day one, stepping onto Oregon's campus as a freshman. He's been a superstar in Oregon, but that is a much smaller market than being a superstar for the New York Giants in the NFL as a pass rusher, arguably the best player on the defense and expected to be the best player on the team within the next 5 years. He needs to learn how to handle that level of stardom, and it's not going to be easy, but there is no one better to mentor him than Michael Strahan. Michael Strahan, if you go watch his A Football Life episode, Football Life is a really, really great series that the NFL Network has. They'll show you how Michael Strahan came up really from nothing. He was, not even, I think he's German is where he's from, right? Michael Strahan's from Germany, lived in Texas, really came from the bottom, worked his way all the way up, did not know what it was like to be a star at first, made it to the NFL, became an overnight sensation, became a superstar. He learned how to, handle all of that and created such a level of stardom for himself that he is now a star outside of football. And Kayvon Thibodeaux is going to want something similar. He's going to want to be a star that transcends the sport. And there's no one for him to learn better from than Michael Strahan. I think Odell Beckham Jr., you mentioned him, so I'll mention him as well. He did try to become a superstar that transcends the sport of football. I mean, he was the most followed player in the NFL. Like, he had so many followers on like every social media platform. It was insane just after his rookie season. And he was propelled to stardom way too quickly because of that one reception that he made, the one-handed touchdown catch. It propelled him to levels of fame that he never envisioned for himself. And I think it was a little too much too fast for Odell Beckham Jr. And hopefully Kayvon Thibodeaux has a little bit more preparation to be propelled into stardom like that. Because if he does reach that level of fame and success that Odell Beckham hit, you're going to want him to know how to handle it and not go a little bit haywire and have some personality problems or question marks or have any of the beat writers get a vendetta against him like Pat Leonard did against Odell Beckham Jr. and try and run him out of town. We don't want that for Kayvon Thibodeaux. We want him to have a super successful long-term career with the New York Giants. And Michael Strahan had exactly that. He played his entire career with the Giants, and he's going to teach Kayvon Thibodeaux how to be successful in the Big Apple, in this big blue market, and how to have success with the New York Giants.
Yeah, funny story about Michael Strahan, actually. The other day, my sister, she's like an event planner in the city, and she texted me. She's like, yeah, like, I just saw this really famous guy. I don't know who it is. I think his name is Michael or something. And I'm like, Michael what? And she's like, I think his name is like Michael Strahan. And I was like, I am a terrible brother. was like, I can't believe that she doesn't know who Michael Strahan is. I'm like, you do realize he's like one of the most famous people in the country, right? The guy hosts like 50 freaking things. Good Morning America, one of the best football players to ever live. And you don't know who Michael Strahan is. I was like, we have to sit down. Like, I gotta run you through this freaking life. But she was like, yeah, like I spoke to him for a couple of minutes. Like he was a big fan of The Bachelor. And he was talking about The Bachelor and stuff, and how they're bringing in like 2 bachelors now or whatever. And it's just a whole mess. But it was super funny and I was cracking up. But, Michael Strahan, obviously a great guy, obviously a really good person for Kayvon Thibodeaux to be around to learn how to manage the New York media market. If there's anyone to like learn from, it's a guy who's not only done it, but is also a part of the New York media market. So like he's a guy that can really help steer the narrative in a positive way. And I think that, that's really a good thing for him because he has a bigger voice than any beat writer or any influencer or whoever it might be. So that's a really good thing for Kayvon. But I also think like, when it comes to Strahan, he did say some stuff about Daniel Jones specifically. Big, strong, talented kid who finally gets the coordinator. I think who we saw what Josh Allen did. So I think the sky's the limit for the Giants. So clearly Michael Strahan's looking at the Giants and saying, damn, like they got a coordinator that actually is going to like call a good game, have a good playbook, extrapolate on player strengths. I mean, pretty much shot at Jason Garrett for that. I mean, basically it was like this guy literally couldn't help Daniel Jones do anything. So pretty positive stuff there. What is your reaction to that kind of Michael Strahan just saying that, Daniel Jones finally got the pieces that he can work with?
I feel like Michael Strahan's been a huge Daniel Jones supporter since day one. And I think, I love that because, I mean, Michael Strahan's just a huge supporter of the Giants in general. He's always been a huge supporter of Eli Manning. That was always his guy. Those two had a great relationship. I really think that, I'm hoping, man, like it would be really great if history repeats itself. We all recall the way that Michael Strahan was that very vocal, charismatic star leader for the Giants. And Eli Manning was just that quiet star. He was the star for the Giants, but he was quiet. He was, a leader, but he wasn't a vocal leader. But those two had such a great relationship. Strahan and Eli were like best friends at times, they would look like. And it was so cool. And I'm hoping, maybe Kayvon Thibodeaux and Daniel Jones can have a similar relationship. I think Kayvon Thibodeaux has a similar personality and demeanor to Michael Strahan. We all know Daniel Jones has a similar personality and demeanor to Eli Manning. Maybe history can repeat itself. If you really think about it, when Eli Manning entered the NFL, what did it take him until his 4th year to become a Super Bowl winning championship quarterback, right? Wasn't it like his first 3 years were super questionable? Nobody knew if he was going to be that guy, that franchise quarterback. And then he enters year 4 and all of a sudden they make a Super Bowl run, right? So who knows? Maybe history repeats itself. Maybe Daniel Jones really does prove to be that guy this year, and Kayvon Thibodeaux ends up being this version, this era of the Giants' Michael Strahan. I don't know. Maybe I'm just getting a little bit too crazy here, a little bit too excited for the Giants. But listen, I'm a diehard Giants fan. I love the Giants. We're talking about Michael Strahan. It's got me reminiscing over Eli Manning as well and hoping for the future. And I do think that Michael Strahan having, giving his full support to this team, the way that Eli Manning has similarly given his full support to this team, reaches out to Daniel Jones and helps him whenever. This kind of stuff is amazing. The Giants have a huge alumni base, a very successful alumni, right? Some great players that played for the Giants, Hall of Fame players. Eli will be in the Hall of Fame one day. Strahan is in the Hall of Fame. All hands on deck. Whenever these guys are willing to help, I'm more than excited to hear that they are helping. And I'm really, really happy to hear that Michael Strahan is as involved as he is.
Absolutely. But guys, if you enjoyed this episode, make sure to like and subscribe as always. Always show some love for our guy, Michael Strahan. One of the nicest dudes out there and just a great guy to have around the organization, the franchise, building up that community and, family orientation for this team who seems to be really about family. And here goes Anthony back at it with rubbing the freaking bronchiosaurus, whatever it might be. But as always, my friends, thank you. Have a fantastic rest of your day and we'll catch you guys on the next Fireside Giants episode.